Did you know, Chan, that in space no one can hear you scream?
Isn't the entirety of planet Earth technically already in space?
Well, yes, obviously, but I was referring to space in the more specific sense of outer space, like with astronauts and all.
I'm pretty sure the sealed, pressurized environments the astronauts inhabit are perfectly capable of transmitting sound, brother.
No, in the airless void of outer space, sound doesn't transmit, thus, in space, no one can hear you scream. It was the tagline for the original Alien movie in 1979.
Except in the movie, you heard lots of people screaming. They weren't even subtle about it. I believe audible screaming actually got third billing in the credits.
Marketing is rarely a perfect representation of the product, Chen. Besides, can you be 100% certain that just because you heard some people screaming in the movie, there weren't also other people screaming that you couldn't hear?
I suppose I cannot with 100% certainty discount the possibility that the tagline of Alien does not refer to any of its actual heroes, but rather a number of unknown, unseen people screaming outside the craft in the airless void of space that we never hear.
And why do we never hear them?
Because they almost certainly do not exist.
Because in space, no one can hear you scream. Or do anything else, I suppose. You know, Chan, if we lived in outer space, we'd never have to hear the guy across the street singing along to the Dave Matthews Band when he gets good and drunk every Thursday evening.
That's technically true, but seems like kind of a lot of trouble to implement.
Well, assume the infrastructure was already in place. Noise pollution would be a thing of the past. No more would individuals prone to migraines despair when their child comes home with a desire to practice clarinet. And if a group of teenagers wanted to use your garage for metal band rehearsal, all you'd have to do is pull a lever and whisk them all away into the airless void.
So they could rehearse without bothering anyone?
No, they'd just be in the airless void. Your garage is connected to your house. Sound would still travel through the walls to you. Nobody wants that. I'm just saying there'd be a ready solution when the situation arose.
Don't you suppose that humanity will have a difficult time adapting to an environment where the spatial range of our voices is so severely limited? Where you could no longer simply give a neighbor a friendly shout from across the fence?
I think you're placing outdated faith in the importance of voice communication to the future, brother. Maybe a lack of direct vocalization would have been a concern back in 1979, but since that time, millennials have been actively working to stamp it out entirely. For the younger generation, a friendly shout from a neighbor is every bit as hostile a gesture as stabbing them directly in the kidneys.
Oh, come on.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever called a person aged 25 or younger and successfully gotten them to pick up the phone?
Well,
excluding close relatives or anyone you're actively dating. I'm not going to go all middle-aged talk show host and say we're heading towards a society of mumbling serial texters, mostly because we're already there, so it wouldn't be very forward-thinking. But if you fear a future where humans can't talk to one another, I'm afraid you're a decade late.
Bleak, but I suppose it must also be weighed against the privilege of never again having to physically speak with customer service.
In space, nobody wants to hear you at all.